What is up, Wisconsin? You're listening to Raised in Wisco. I'm your host, Joel Kleefisch, sitting alongside me in the passenger seat, riding shotgun like a lamprey eel stuck to the side of the shark. No, come on, you're not like that. Danielle Fairman.
Are you calling yourself a shark?
Well, I guess in this case scenario, it'd be more like a whale, I guess. What are those things that get stuck to the side of fish and they have what's called a symbiotic relationship? Jeff, do you know what those things are called?
Remora.
Remora!
How do you know this?
Ding, 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 ding.
That answer was remorkable.
Oh, wow.
Remorkable.
That was the earliest.
Start the tally.
That was the earliest we've ever done that.
That's a dad joke right off the bat. Raised in Wisco is your show that teaches you and shows you how to love the outdoors of Wisconsin, how to have fun in the outdoors of Wisconsin. And I tell everybody at the end of the day, it's a cooking show, how to take that field or forage from field or lake or stream or river to the table. Today, we have an awesome guest, and I'm going right off the top of them. Jeff Pritzl is the Deer Program Specialist for the Department of Natural Resources. Look.
What?
I've been a hunter. I'm a hunter. Danielle, I think you, and I can't forget, Ellie Lawton-Smoller is in the studio with us today, too.
Hello.
What up, G? She's here because, and if you detect that there is a certain air of excitement and bombacity going on here, it is because we just got out of the turkey blind and had one heck of a fall turkey hunt. We called. We had decoys out. They came to the decoys. We had a near miss. We're going to talk about that as well. Yeah. A miss. But we ended up the day with 4 turkeys.
Yes, we did.
And I am so excited because
4
there
turkeys
is
and a bruise.
nothing better than turkey, fresh turkey from field to table.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to get that for dinner tonight. But Jeff Pritzl is here, the Deer Program Specialist for the Department of Natural Resources. And I want to say, I know if you're a hunter or a fisherman out there, I know there are those of us who say, well, now I'm trying to couch. Jess,
what do we say?
Producer Jess, I'm trying to couch my words because I can't swear here. But they say swear word DNR. And what I am telling you, and Jeff is an example of this, the former Chief Warden Todd Schaller is an example of this. Our friend Taylor Finger is a great example of this. There are some amazing people in Wisconsin's Department of Natural Resources who not only walk the walk, but they are in the field hunting, fishing, and foraging. I had the chance last week to cook for some state DNR wardens, some federal wardens, and some folks who work for the DNR. And what I like to see is a DNR that works with hunters, with anglers, with those using Wisconsin's great outdoors. And Jeff Pritzl, I'm so excited because the Deer Program Specialist has to do with like the social aspects of hunting, the cultural aspects of hunting, hunters getting along with non-hunters, land that's private versus land that's public. And I love this because we don't get insights like this into those who work in the DNR. And I think some of the biggest reasons there are apprehensions between people who use the outdoors and people who enforce the laws and people who carry out the administrative aspects is that there's not an understanding of exactly what they're doing.
And I like how you said there was a social aspect that he has an eye on, because before the show, we were talking about how social media and just social controversy of velvet bucks.
Velvet bucks. We can talk about velvet bucks today.
I really want to talk
about up more and more.
Because he said it's more of a social aspect. What were you saying? It's something about bringing it into like the tags for a velvet buck, or just get velvet buck week like we have the holiday hunt.
Sure. So kind of where you were going, Joel, was, my whole career, 30 plus years now, I've heard people throwing out examples of, well, why don't we do it this way? Why don't we do it this way? And why does the department want to do it this way? And I like bringing around the understanding that the department brings the information to the table so that people can make informed decisions. But in the end, what we're working with are results of directives that either come through state statute or administrative code through the people's will and their processes. And I would say the department, we don't really care necessarily, not that we don't care, but it's not up to us when and where and how we harvest our wild game. We provide the information of here's the pros and cons of doing it this way versus this way. But in the end, the public, will shape how we go about doing that. So this example of, and I've just started to hear this in the last year or two, people asking me, when is Wisconsin going to talk about
Mhm.
opening the season earlier? Because they're hearing about, I guess, I don't want to call it a fad, but the real recent interest and growth as a new experience is to harvest a buck in velvet. And so some of the states, other states have started to, respond to that. Heck, some of the states south of us open their archery season earlier than we do.
Yeah, you're saying about August.
yeah.
Yeah. And so we were thinking about here was opening weekend of bow season. It's too warm to go deer hunting, right?
Yep.
Well,
Oh.
think of the deer
You know
hunters.
what?
Joel
You can
has a
hunt
thing
in
for
Florida
that.
in
Absolutely.
December and it's 85 degrees.
That's
It's
what I
never
brought up.
too warm to hunt.
They're archery hunting right
It's just
now.
miserable when you hunt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, what is your intake, Jeff? Are you pro or against?
I honestly am neutral on that.
Yeah.
Again, personally, I think it's good for me as the deer program specialist to keep a relatively objective view of this. To be quite honest,
Of course.
deer
Mhm.
hunting is not my biggest passion. I'm more of a bird hunter. But
Now we're
I've been
talking.
working with deer
Yep.
hunters my entire career. But I can look at this objectively because I don't feel like I have a personal stake in the outcome so much. So I'm open to listening to whatever options and what people are looking for, put the information on the table and say, make a decision through public engagement process.
See, my input is that how you put in for a tag for elk and you get drawn. Why don't you just do that to see what the population would think about getting velvet into the process?
Well, I can tell, I'm no mind reader, but I've been at the game, having been in the legislature and now being an avid hunter, I can tell you already I can see the fights over it. And let me tell you what I see the
There's
fights
always a
are.
fight.
But velvet bucks, when you say, hey, should we have a season on a velvet antlered buck, what you're doing, and I'm not talking about those deer that are anomalies that end up with their velvet later or have got a chromosomal difference or something that affects them and has them have velvet later. I'm talking about hunting bucks during the velvet season. Let me tell you the biggest issue. You're going to have ethical fights over it because a buck in velvet has not stopped growing its antlers. Velvet means the antlers are growing.
Mhm.
So you're going to have a contingent of people who are going to say, don't you dare. Damn you if you hunt a buck in velvet because it's not as big as its potential to become. And you're going to have that fight between those folks and the folks who say, I want to hunt a beautiful velvet buck, and I think there should be an opportunity to do that.
Well, those are the people that are going to fight saying, you should let that one grow another year. You should not shoot that one. You should shoot this one, save it for 2 or 3 years, see how it looks in 2 or 3 years. I feel like
sure.
Those are the same people that are going to fight for that.
I've said this forever. The biggest problem with the sportsman community, men and women in the sportsman community, is that they're their own worst enemy.
This is true.
We want to advance the cause of being allowed to use our Second Amendment privileges, being the best conservators of the environment, making sure that we have the right numbers in cooperation and conjunction with the DNR. So there are people who vilify what the DNR is doing. And folks like Jeff Pritzl, the fact that he's coming on this show should show you they actually want to work with the sportsmen and women of this state. And this show is going to be so good and so fascinating because I'm going to pick his brain about the social aspects of hunting, what it means to have those fights, how the department juggles those things, and frankly, some of the criticism that's sometimes warranted but often not warranted. But before we get too far into that, which we are going to get into, and folks, you're not going to believe it. Ellie Lawton-Smoller, Danielle Fairman, and Joel Kleefisch, that's me, just got out of the turkey blind.
Yes, we did.
And
Like I still have
we
dirt on my pants.
had one heck. Well, yeah. If you come out of the woods with a little dirt and a little blood on your clothing, you've usually had a good day. So, and we were prepping the woods for producer Jess, who's going to get out there one of these days with us to hunt a turkey. But I'm going to take my weekly Wisco was just 30 minutes ago, coming out of the woods with 4 fresh Wisconsin fall turkeys, which was an absolute blast. The turkeys came to the decoys. We had the 3 of us packed like sardines into a little blind, and we had
an 80-degree day.
It was as hot as a
shooting
sardine can, too.
zones. It was hot.
In the
It was
microwave.
hot. It was like 86 degrees, and plus in the stuffiness of a blind. But I have to say, Ellie Mae, you brought along charcuterie
Yes.
You
individual
did.
charcuterie
Charcuterie
packets.
boxes. Yeah.
And she brought a fourth one for you, Jess, because she thought you were coming out with us.
I did. Yes.
It
I was
was-
really sad when I got there and you weren't there.
It was fantastic. So we all are very safety conscious. So we all had our shooting zones, and I was okay had I not shot it all. I wanted Ellie and Danielle to get the first shot, so they were separated in the front of the blind, and then I was going to shoot safely. So Danielle was on one side, Ellie was on the other, and I was going to follow up with a shot because I was against the back out the right hand side. So we have these turkeys kind of on the march toward us. We had a decoys out. We had a Jake and an upright dominant hen and a feeder hen. And all of a sudden, the dominant hen of the group of turkeys coming started marching toward our dominant decoy.
Oh, yes,
She was ready for business.
She was ready to fight. But then 3 of the biggest turkeys out there, one included a huge bearded hen.
Oh, that
the
would have been
biggest bearded hen I've
amazing
ever
if we
seen.
would've
I don't
got
want to
that.
think about it.
Oh,
And
we're
they
going
were
to think
flanking
about
us
it,
to
Ellie.
the back.
We're going to think about
I'm
it.
going to dream about her tonight.
So they were flanking us around the back, and that's when your heart's beating, and you're kind of waiting. And so we had to make sure we had safe shooting. And so we waited, and we were going to count to 3 and shoot if we had an opportunity to do that. Well, one of the dominant hen broke off and went straight to the decoys. Danielle had a great safe shot on that. Then we were waiting for the bearded hen to move to a safe position that Ellie could safely shoot it, and then I would cut her flank to the right of her against the back of the blind. Well, the big one's there in front of Danielle. Danielle
booty bumping
gets
that
ready,
decoy.
and here comes the bearded hen right in front. And I say, "Is everybody ready?" They say,
then
"Yes."
what happened?
And you're not going to believe what happened after that. You're listening to the smooth stylings of Maynard Ferguson on this week's Raised in Wisco, your station for smooth jazz. Just
I feel
kidding.
Like I'm listening to
Hey,
a
that wasn't
game
bad,
show.
is it? That wasn't bad. That was like I
Look
could have
at you
crossed
go.
over right there. Multi-genre Joel. You have to say the J with a soft J. Folks, you're listening to Raised in Wisco. I'm your host, Joel Kleefisch. Danielle Fairman's on the laugh box next to me. I just press a button
how
and
do
she
we,
laughs.
Yep. How do we go from Hanson to this? What is happening?
Well, you
That's
see, I just
Maynard
type in a
Ferguson.
different name on Spotify. So
Oh, this is the greatest thing
we
ever.
cannot blame producer Jess for
No,
the myriad of
we
music.
chose
We
this.
actually came up with a kaleidoscope of music today. And that is
for
because
real.
we've got a kaleidoscope of topics. And what I'm so excited about is we are revisiting the hunt that happened less than an hour ago, the turkey hunt, set up like this. Ellie Lawton-Smoller, Danielle Fairman, and I are in a blind, packed in like sardines. It's 86 degrees out, and the Spanish Armada of turkeys is coming our way. No joke, like 20 of them. Bearded hens, giant bearded hens.
Beautiful.
So they're coming in. And the main boss hen goes to our boss hen decoy, and Danielle's out one side.
She
We got to
just
make
hangs
sure.
out.
We just got to make sure that Danielle's got a safe shot, and then Ellie Mae, and we're waiting for the huge bearded hen to make its way into safe shooting territory for Ellie Mae, and then I'm going to play clean up all the way against the back of the blind out the right side. So once that boss hen goes to the boss hen decoy, I'm like, she's going to hang around for a while. She's mad that someone's invaded her territory. And I'm like, okay, Danielle, you on it? And good thing Danielle's got some serious pipes on her arms because she was
That
holding
gun
that
was
gun
so
up for a
heavy.
while. That thing must have got heavy.
Uh-huh.
So the weekly Wisco continuation takes us to where that bearded hen finally gets in the perfect lane, perfect, nothing behind it.
She just
a
pulled right
perfect.
up,
She pulled
just
right up. I said, "Are you
perfect.
guys ready?"
we were so
They
ready.
say yes on the 3. 1, 2, 3, boom, and they both shoot. And Ellie was out trained on the bearded hen. What happened?
Oh, I missed the bearded hen. I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight. She was beautiful. You know what? I don't even have a good excuse. I just straight up missed her. I shot right over her.
Yes, you did.
It
Yep.
just is what it
Yep.
is. It
You
was
know
very
what?
sad though.
That is what the excitement of hunting is all about. If you lose that, take up knitting. I'm just saying.
Take up knitting.
Because that is what hunting is all about. And
I
nobody.
still had a great time.
Oh, it was fantastic. We ended up killing 4 turkeys. I played cleanup on the right. There were 2 big birds right outside the window. I put the new Benelli on them and pulled the trigger twice and killed 2 of them. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, the
and-
dominant hen was just booty bumping the other dominant hen, and she was just
What,
clucking.
Jess? I
Booty
mean, you are of a
bumping.
different generation than me. Do you know what that means? Booty bumping.
I mean, it's right in the name there, Joel.
Okay.
Yeah, take that.
Do not assume that the obvious is obvious with me.
I mean, I guess
with these
that's
kids.
fair.
Was it acting chuggy or what's
So it
some of
was-
the other words?
I looked on Google Maps. It was 65 yards. So the dominant hen was about 40 yards away, and then when the other ones were still coming around the corner,
Yeah.
and the other one that I shot was about 65 yards
Yeah,
away.
that's a good. You had a nice tight choke in. You
Mhm.
took an ethical shot
Nice
on it
full
and flattened that. That was beautiful.
Oh yes.
And one of the most fun things about this is we've got Jeff Pritzl with us, who is the Deer Program Specialist for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. And Jeff, when you hear scenarios like this, your job literally is to understand the cultural implications of hunting. So I think that people who haven't hunted or haven't made a part of what they do in their free time don't necessarily understand how many split-second decisions are made during a hunt, and why safety is taught at first and is so important, and why making sure what is in your background and the tab K and all that. So when you hear about our turkey hunt that just happened this afternoon, what goes through your mind as a program specialist for the DNR who analyzes, kind of the social aspect of hunting?
Well, as you guys just described, there's this really cool blend of the social aspect and the biological aspect. And everyone thinks, the department, well, we're biologists. We're just about the numbers, the productivity of the population and measuring and monitoring it. But where that interface is then with the public interests, and in terms of harvest, keeping harvest numbers within the sideboards of what keeps that population, safe and stable. Those individual, intimate things that are playing out on these one-on-one experiences, that's cool. That's really where it's at. At the level the department works at, and this is one of the things we run into, probably the most misunderstanding or the conflict in terms of bridging that gap of the individual hunter's experience and the department's responsibility to manage that resource at the scale of the state or a county or a unit.
Yeah.
Those
are tough decisions.
We're operating at a scale of a huge landscape with thousands of individual animals, and then putting into perspective, what's the success rate of fall turkey hunters? You guys just had great success today, but collectively across the state, the success rate on fall turkey permits is really low.
What is it? Do you know the percentage?
It's less than 20%.
Holy
20%?
cow.
So
So only 20% of people who buy a fall turkey tag end up. But I think, now tell me, this is in your alleyway. I think very few people actually target turkeys in the fall. Is that true?
that's a big part of it. So exactly. A lot of people will get a fall turkey tag as as long as I'm out there, if the opportunity presents itself, I want to be ready, but I'm not going to actually go out specifically for turkey. So a fair number of those permits are kind of in that category of, I'll just get one to cover my bases, and they may never actually end up pursuing it. So that, when it comes
That's
to...
got to be so hard to factor into the numbers.
Yeah, how do
and
you
to
do that?
factor into making sure preservation of species when a hunter is buying a tag that's not necessarily trying to hunt the tag that they bought.
Well, we have our database, and especially since we went to the Go Wild system,
Yeah.
we've got the electronic data to mine to say, all right, we can put this many permits out there without threatening the resource
That's
at
great.
the zone level,
Mhm.
because we know that success rate's real low. And in my world now with deer, we really deal with that a lot.
That's
And for spring turkey harvest, I just looked it up on the Go Wild. 50,435 were harvested
That's
for spring turkey
incredible.
in 2024.
We had an
And-
awesome spring this year.
Yeah, heck yeah, we did.
Zone 1 was crushing it with 13,000.
That's insane. So Ellie, and I just before we go to break, I want to make sure that we talk about Ellie. You had an awesome experience today, and you missed.
Yes.
And I know some people when they miss, they'll beat themselves up for a week. They'll get it'll ruin them to hunting for a while. And I want everybody out there to understand everybody misses, and it's just part of hunting. And the
I'm just
hunting,
gonna
the
go back
entire
out.
hunting experience is what makes it great. And if it was grocery shopping, you'd go and you'd put your money down and you'd leave with the butterball. But when you're going out there to do it yourself, understand the satisfaction of cooking that turkey is 1,000-fold because of that. And I can't wait. Jeff Pritzl, the Deer Program Specialist for the Department of Natural Resources, come back. He just got back from an Alaska caribou hunt. We
Your
got to
dream
hear
hunt?
about my dream hunt. Danielle Fairman's going to give her weekly Wisco a little late, but not $1 short. And we got our recipe of the week. I'll tell you about it.
Did someone say turkey?
Welcome to Raised in Wisco, your one-stop shop for everything in the great outdoors of Wisconsin. I'm Joel Kleefisch. Alongside me is Danielle Fairman.
Hello.
You're listening to Raised in Wisco on all your Civic media stations throughout Wisconsin, 13 of them. On Saturdays at 11 a.m., we've had the hunting season open for exactly 1 week. And today,
Is the night
Today,
when two
we-
become one.
I started my game season. I've killed some geese. Danielle's on a tangent. What's new? What song was that?
Spice Girls.
Spice Girls. We went from Dua Lipa to Spice Girls.
We're all over the place. This is great.
That's pretty skibbity, as the kids say.
Oh, no.
No, don't. I tried it with my kid. When I say that, nothing makes me more cringe. Hey, there's another one. Nothing makes me more cringy to them when I try to use Gen Z saying.
I bet.
Producer Jess is actually laughing.
She's laughing.
I just want you to know I'm always going for the laugh. And if I get a laugh out of her, I'm pretty happy about it.
It's cringy for us too.
No,
Nice.
wait a minute. You're on the precipice of being in my generation. It can't be that cringy to you, Ellie.
It is. It hurts my ears. It hurts my bad ear.
I think maybe the sound of you missing that turkey today.
Ouch.
Oh.
Hey, I gotta go.
Wait, give me my charcuterie board first.
Jeff Pritzl is here. He's the Deer Program Specialist for the Department of Natural Resources, and he is a fascinating job because his job is to talk about the programming of hunting, literally the programming of hunting, the social aspects, the cultural aspects, the conservation aspects of it. And one thing that he has done, which arguably we haven't seen in the past, is you've taken that position, which very much could be a desk job, looking at numbers, looking at statistics. You made it a job of going to the people who participate in Wisconsin's outdoors to make your job better and the relationship with the DNR better with those who use the waters and woods of the state. That, to me, is heroic. That, to me, is the reason that government exists in the way it does, to listen to the people and to be a part of a solution rather than at odds or something that the general public doesn't know about.
Well, thanks, Joel. And I thought after 30 years of being in the game, working in the field and then working as an administrator, I developed relationships over those 30 years. I've worked very closely with the Wisconsin Conservation Congress members. That's a really unique organization. And going back to the earlier conversation about, we were talking about velvet bucks and maybe a change. Working through the Conservation Congress is how those kind of changes happen. And having worked with those folks for 30 years, I thought I could move into this deer position, keep those relationships going, to have those challenging, difficult conversations that are inevitably going to come up because the issue with, we were talking about it earlier with deer hunters, what I've come to learn over 30 years, there's no such thing as an average deer hunter or a stereotypical deer hunter.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, so, I mean, it's fascinating to me. And I guess one of the biggest questions I have for you is, do you have to struggle to get past the animosities that see any government entity as an enemy? Is that something you end up dealing with, or are you finding, because what I'm finding is, and I want to be clear, Jeff Pritzl is an actual hunter. He's out there waterfowl hunting like crazy. Just got back from Alaska where he was caribou hunting, which is one of my dreams, to go to Alaska and caribou hunt. After hearing about how hard it is, I don't know if I'd make it alive though. And so oftentimes there are those in the administrations who are not actual hunters. And what I've seen that I really am impressed with the current administration is they're offering now examples of how to cook wild game and wild foraged items, and examples of learn to hunts for members of the Department of Natural Resources who may have never hunted. How important is it for those who are working in jobs like yours to have an understanding and actually get out there and in the field and do it? And I'm just thrilled to see that changing. But how important is it to have that understanding? Because you said no deer hunter's the same, and I agree with you. And when you are in the waters and woods participating in outdoor activity, you have your own way of looking at it. And the administration's job is to fulfill the statute, and to fulfill the federal regulations. How on earth do you blend that together and come out with a final product?
Well, to me, I think the most valuable things I do, I'm going to a meeting and we've got content, we've got a topic, we've got agendas. The work that we do before the meeting starts and after the meeting is over, one-on-one, chatting in the parking lot and allowing people to know who you are as a person and establish that common ground. And then you get a ripple effect from that, because those are, even if it's a handful of individuals, then they go and talk to their friends and say, hey, I chatted with the guy from the DNR in the parking lot for 10 minutes and it wasn't such a bad guy after all.
Oh yeah, I always have great experiences with people from the DNR, sheriffs, anybody. I always have a great experience. But I want to flip the switch a little bit. When you were talking about how you're a huge waterfowl person as well. And when I was talking to you early before the show, you were talking about the waterfowl and wetlands restoration in the 1900s, and then tag in the cormorants.
Oh,
Why did you bring up the cormorants? Can you talk a little bit more about?
So sure. First,
This is a fascinating topic, because for those of you who don't know or who may be new to Raised in Wisco, a cormorant is a bird that eats its weight 1,000,000 times over in fish and can decimate a fishery, but you cannot hunt them. So now
they're a bird, not a duck.
They're a bird, they're a bird. They're not a duck.
Mm-hmm.
Are they waterfowl? I don't even know the answer.
Is
to
a duck
that.
not a bird?
We'll get into we can get into that. But so in general, again, I came into this career as a wetland waterfowl specialist, driven by my interest in waterfowl hunting. And so I did a lot of that for the first 10 years of my career. Then working in the Green Bay area, and I was more on the bird side, and not just game birds, not just ducks and turkeys, that type of thing. I did my master's research on Forster's tern, which is an aquatic bird that's an endangered species, and so I was very interested in non-game birds, colonial water birds. Cormorants are colonial water birds. They have experienced a really interesting history over the past 30 years across the continent. And there's ecological reasons why we've got way more cormorants.
Why
now.
can't we kill them?
Well, okay, let's talk hunting and what the requirements are for there to be a legitimate game bird. One, they have to be productive enough to be able to sustain a harvest, right?
Right.
Two, there has to be some element of challenge and fair chase, and that there could be that. But the third element is it should be pretty good table fare, and the whole purpose of it. There's where your problem is.
But what about mergansers though?
Yeah,
I feel like
I
they're not-
can
I
make
feel
a
like-
merganser.
I feel
taste
like
good.
mergansers
Sure.
are not pretty good table fare.
So imagine mergansers and crank the dial a little further over, in terms of, because of their diet. Most people would not consider that to be, good table fare.
Cormorants
But we
are
know
nasty
there-
tasting. That's
and
what you're trying to
there's
say.
several members of
They
the
taste crappy.
waterfowl family, some sea ducks and stuff that we pursue that aren't the greatest table fare, but we, work through that. But so, yeah, bottom line, by definition, that they don't fit into that. And so we want to maintain that we don't hunt a species simply because we consider it vermin and want to persecute it and reduce its numbers. But what ended up happening was, there was this parallel experience where at the time cormorant numbers were really increasing, and across the Great Lakes, perch numbers went down.
Oh,
Of
And
course.
so there was this very strong desire to make that connection and say one equals the other.
Mhm.
And there was some relationship there. Ultimately, for a number of reasons, because not only were cormorants foraging on fish, in the end, diet studies would show a lot of it is rough fish, and they're very opportunistic. You have a great perch hatch, they're going to eat perch. If you have a down perch year, they're going to eat goby. They're going to switch to whatever, which makes them
They're malleable, is what you're
they're
saying.
adaptable, and that's why they've recovered in the landscape. But they also really can change the vegetation on the islands that they colonized. So some people looked at the vegetative communities on the islands, and when they migrate south, they were generating a lot of conflict with fish farmers in the Mississippi Delta. So
Sure.
so federally, that's where it came to the point where, all right, we're going to do some cormorant management. But I got involved with that dynamic and was fascinated by helping people understand those connections, and that and brought it to a resolution to a certain degree where we got it to where you don't hear people talking about it as much as we used to.
Yeah, I thought cormorants, not cormorants. I thought cormorants were just a crap fish, or not fish, crap bird that you just didn't want to do anything with or about or anything like that. So hearing how they actually have somewhat of a purpose, kinda.
It's one of those beauties in the eye of the beholder. I am, as a bird watcher, I could be fascinated by the thousands of. And I had someone talk about they saw thousands of cormorants migrating together along the coast of the lake, and from a picturesque standpoint, as
that'd be beautiful.
as a big flock of geese or something like that.
Sure.
But people
They
look
drive
through
me
different
nuts
lenses.
because you see them in the distance, and you're like, guys, get ready, get ready.
Uh-huh. Here comes the Panther.
Cormorants.
Yeah.
Which leads me
Oh,
to ask you, I have to ask you about this because I know you're penchant for waterfowl hunting, and now you are the deer program specialist, so you deal with these issues. I think the single largest animal we have that has a social fight on its hands is the sandhill crane. We, as the original author of the sandhill crane hunting bill some 10 years ago, I got absolutely crucified for proposing it. Now their numbers are increasing so much that they're doing serious real damage to agriculture in Wisconsin. There is a movement right now underway to understand the sandhill crane's impact on the economy and the ecology of the state. There's a sandhill crane study committee. What are your gut instincts as to whether we're going to get past the social mores of hunting cranes in Wisconsin with the International Crane Foundation here, and the potential reality that education will bring it to a point that people will understand a harvest is not only a sustainable option, but something that should be exercised, essentially not only because they're great table fare, but for the greater good of the ecology of the state.
I think as we've, let's dial back over 20 years ago now, we were in the same position with mourning doves, right?
Right. Right. That's
so
a
you
great.
Can, you,
Oh,
I
you,
would
were
can
we?
look,
that's a
you
great.
can look back.
I did not know this.
Yeah,
I
some of
was
the
a
folks-
television news reporter. It was before I ran for office, and Dwayne Johnsrud proposed a mourning dove hunt, and it was one of the biggest controversies this state had seen.
So in these situations, navigating the situations, you have to have a combination of things happen where the planets have to align, the right situation has to fall into place where you've got your Dwayne Johnsruds, in the right positions to effectively, promote and set things up like that. And now when you look back at what seemed like a really big deal over 2 decades ago with bringing a dove hunt to the state, now it'd be like, doesn't seem like such a big deal anymore. So 20 years from now, we'll be in that position with sandhills. I hesitate to even say I think it's going to go one way or the other because the timing has to line up. Where I think people are going about
so
it
many
right.
factors.
I think they're going about it right in this time. I think putting too much weight on, again, trying to look at it as a need to do it specifically to address the damage angle probably unto itself isn't the winning strategy.
I don't think it is.
So
I think you got
learn
that
from
on that.
and it'd be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me. And I think, look, if we can, is it going to affect really my overall ability to hunt and forage and put food on the table? Because my family only eats wild game. No, it's not. Is it something I'd like to see happen? Yes, it is. But I think that one of the more important aspects of it is that we have an understanding as to the reasons to move forward with it. And I think education on the forefront is the key. And that's kind of what we're seeing, as it goes on. I mean, Danielle, you've never known a time where mourning dove hunting wasn't available to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
and
that was absolutely fascinating to hear about the doves.
Yeah, they are absolutely, they're a fantastic table fare, tasty morsel, if you will. I'll tell you that. And oh my gosh, this show flies so fast. I cannot wait because we are going to tell you one quick thing to do. I'm going to try to encourage you to get a turkey tag if you haven't gotten it yet, because there's still a few available, and make turkey hunting part of your experience, even if it's your first experience. But I got a tasty dish. If you don't get fired up with a little David Lee Roth and the old original Van Halen, come on, something's wrong. Just like you should get fired up if you're listening to Raised in Wisco. I'm your host, Joel Kleefisch. Alongside me in the sidekick seat, riding shotgun, playing the banjo to my ukulele.
Exactly what's happening.
Danielle Fairman, number 32, wearing the jersey of the opposing team. Well, no, the same team. Same team.
I feel like we're on the same team.
We're on the same team.
And 35.
We
We're
had
number
such
8.
We had such an awesome hunt today. Jeff Pritzl is here. He's the Deer Program Specialist with an extensive background in waterfowl hunting. And what an awesome discussion we're having about the social aspects of hunting, sandhill cranes, the cormorants, deer hunting. And we're going to we got our recipe of the week coming up. Ellie Smoller's here. We had an awesome time. Look, I know you shot and missed at the bearded turkey.
We're bringing that
today.
up again.
Just pouring salt in the wound at this point.
I'm not. No, I was about to give you a compliment. I was about to
I'll
say,
take it.
having you along in the blind is an absolute right. There were so many times I had to say to myself and to them, whisper, don't talk, because we would get to talking and laughing so loud. The turkey, I think, and then my alarm went off that said, get to the radio station in the blind. My alarm went off. And
Danielle, could you imagine if our alarms went off?
I can imagine.
It was my fault. I'm taking responsibility, and I will try to become a better person.
It didn't ruin the hunt
Does
at
that
all.
work?
The turkeys were like, hey,
No,
yeah, it's our
the
time.
turkeys all froze. Did you notice
started
that? They all
jamming.
froze. They all froze. I think I had like Chase Rice Ready Set Let's Roll playing or something, and they all stopped and thought, whoa, there's a country singer around. Finally, it didn't end up killing our hunt, though, but it was, I don't know where it comes from. Don't ask. I don't know. Producer Jess is going to get ready for, she couldn't join us today because she was actually at work, but she's going to join us in the field for a turkey hunt. And Jeff Pritzl, we're going to talk about our recipe of the week, but I really want to talk to you about the social aspects of deer hunting in the state, because we are now in the archery deer season. But I'm going to tell you something. For anybody who cooks wild game and says, oh, it doesn't taste good, this show is about helping you make it taste good and helping folks try it and enjoy it. And I'm going to talk about one of my recipes. You guys, if you want to think about one of your recipes, my recipes for turkey, that is super, super simple to do. And that is because when you kill wild game, it is such a lean protein. You want to add a fat to it. So if you want to eat that turkey fresh from field to table, this is a perfect way to do it. You slice that turkey breast up into strips about an inch or smaller each, and take a fork or one of those mechanisms that tenderizes it and pokes the needles through it, and poke the ever-loving heck out of each one of those strips, and then douse them in teriyaki sauce with oil, olive oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, and that oil in the marinade is going to get into all of those holes you poked in it. Then you wrap those in bacon, and while they're on the grill or the skillet, you baste them with a barbecue sauce, and that's going to coat and keep all of those juices in there. And the fat you add to it is going to add to the tenderness of it, and it's going to give it that store purchase meat squeak. Does that make sense when you bite into something and it's kind of got that pulled pork kind of?
It's got the bite to it.
It's got a bite to
Yeah.
it, and it's not going to be dry and shreddy. It's going to have kind of a juicy-ish texture to it. So that's my recipe of the week: the marinated teriyaki, and you can use that with goose, duck, wild turkey, venison, you name it. You can even do it with raccoon if you like. You guys have a recipe of the week, or did you like that one pretty good?
I like that one. I want to know what your question was for Mr. Jeff Pritzl over here.
About the deer hunting season?
Yes.
Yeah. So Jeff, Ellie, you're a big cook. I don't want to skip you with a recipe
I mean,
idea.
I can tell you what I'm going to make tomorrow.
What are you
which is
gonna
one
make?
You were talking about juicy, and I have venison defrosted in the freezer right now. I'm going to make my Juicy Lucy burgers, venison burgers, with some, I think I'm going to do some Door County cherry chutney over them tomorrow.
Oh, for goodness
So
sakes. That
good.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, super easy.
Hey, Ellie, you can come back tomorrow with those.
That's
come right
producer
up.
We can do
Jess.
that. Yeah.
See why Raised in Wisco is so fun, producer Jess?
Well, I mean, Ellie brings me baked goods, and
I
also
brought
apparently
pot pie
charcuterie.
last week.
Yeah, and it was delicious.
And
Thank you.
I will
We need
bring
more pot
I
pie.
We need more.
promise. I promise. Jeff Pritzl, I know you probably like to eat wild game as well. And I want to, I'd love to hear your wild game suggestion. But beyond that, I want to know, what are some of the biggest disagreements and fights you see over the deer hunting season?
Ooh, that's a fun question.
Well, I think, all right, go down that path.
Oh,
Let's
we're
do
going.
it.
We're there.
Let's do it,
Well,
baby.
a perennial one has certainly been just the timing of the gun deer season. And we've got this sense of tradition, and that the gun season should always be 9 days, and it should be the Saturday before Thanksgiving, to
That's perfect.
through the Sunday after. And I would say the majority of people still are in that camp, but there's a growing group of people that are saying, well, if we want to keep, because we're seeing this shift of hunter effort away from the gun season into archery hunting. People are wanting to hunt.
Right.
That's an expression of enthusiasm for deer hunting.
Absolutely. It's
We wanna hunt
fantastic.
deer
And
more.
the rut happens during the archery season.
And so some people fret about and are concerned about losing that tradition and the strength of the gun season, but it's really an augmentation of deer hunting that's just spreading out over more of the calendar year. But there's this perennial debate about how much of the effort should be, in the archery and crossbow season versus the gun season. And some saying, well, the gun season, is it timed in the right part of November as it relates to the maximum opportunity to see deer? Because our hunting strategies have shifted and changed so much to where even the gun hunters have adapted more of an archery strategy where it's
Sure.
sit, wait, have the deer come to you.
Waiting
and-
for more mature bucks
and
as
if-
well.
And if the deer aren't moving naturally, deer sightings are not going to be what we used to see during the gun season. And so you either move the gun season to when the deer are moving or just enjoy it for what it is.
And that
I like
will be
that.
an ongoing fight. And that's something to think about. Listen, we're in the thick of the most exciting part of Wisconsin's year, and that is you can hunt deer, turkeys, waterfowl, black bear. Oh, man, it's so awesome. And we had such a great time today. Thank you so much for listening to Raised in Wisco.
Thank you.
Your
Thank you,
source
Jeff.
for getting out in the outdoors of Wisconsin. I'm Joel Kleefisch. That's Danielle Fairman, Ellie Lawton-Smoller, and Jeff Pritzl joining us today. We'll see you next time on Raised in Wisco. We're unchained.